So here are my pumpkins and they're all dry. The next thing that you'll need is some oil crayons. And if you are a home learner and you don't have oil crayons, you could use regular crayon for this. You could use regular crayon before and then paint over it with watercolor. That would be an option too. But for our in-person learners, we're going to be using oil crayon. And we're going to start with our sky. Now, if your pumpkins are still wet and you're ready to move on and your sky is dry, then that's great. We'll start with the sky first. And I want to think about the Starry Night painting that you should have learned about and looked at on the choice board. And I'm going to add a moon. In my sky to my Starry Night Pumpkins. And I'm going to add some stars. And I'm going to start out adding stars by just adding some dots. I'm also going to use these little drips to my advantage by turning those into some stars and covering them up. So there's some stars. Now, Starry Night, Van Gogh used a lot of lines and texture to show that sky moving and those stars glowing. So I'm doing some white lines around my stars. I'm going to do some orange lines around my stars. I could even put little orange or red dots in my stars to really make those look like they're glowing. Kind of a Starry Night Van Gogh kind of look. You could even put some lines in and around your moon using white and yellow. White and yellow is are really good colors to show light. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So there's that. I've got a lot more stars I can work on. Now I'm going to go in with some blues, and I'm going to start adding some of those lines like Van Gogh has in his Starry Night to make that sky look like it's moving and swirling. Now just those few swirls don't look like much, but when I go in and add some purple and some white to those swirls, then I really start getting that look of that Van Gogh sky. I even sometimes like to add a little bit of this kind of glowing yellow-green. I'm going to continue to fill that in however I want to fill it in to really make it look like that Starry Night. All the way down to the grass. Again, I'm using blues, I'm using purples, I'm using whites. Okay. For your pumpkins, you've got some moonlight, and we want these pumpkins to look like they're in the moonlight. So I had said that white and yellow are good colors for light. So I'm going to add some moonlight to my pumpkins by going right over the top of my pumpkin with some yellow and some white where I think this moonlight's going to hit. The other thing I want you to do is we don't want to see these pencil lines anymore. And so I'm going to use a dark color. You could use brown, you could use purple. I just don't want you to use a black. We're going to try to put a shadow in these pumpkins to make these circle shapes look more like form. And then I'm going to go over it with some orange. So I've got purple and I'm going to go over it with some orange. Green would even be a good color to add. And so I'm just adding some of this orange, some purple over the top of this pumpkin to give it some texture I found like a dark blue oil crayon. And then I'm going to go back in here on the top and add some more white and yellow so it looks like there's some sunlight at the top. And then lastly, I can take some green or some brown, and I'm going to go in and do my stem. And you can put some lines in your stem. I'm going to use some purple to put some lines in my stem. I'm even going to use some yellow to put some moonlight on my stem. So there's one of my pumpkins. You'll want to do all of your pumpkins that same way. And then lastly, you can go in with your green and add some more texture and lines to your grass or your pumpkin patch with your green oil crayon. And I'm cleaning up these edges too in between colors. If I do have any white showing that I didn't get with paint, I can do that. And lastly, I'm going to take a dark color like a purple or a dark blue, or maybe this time a little bit of black. And I'm going to put some shadow underneath these pumpkins. That's also going to make it look a little more three-dimensional and not so flat. So I'm going to work on finishing mine. You work on finishing yours, and make sure you take a picture and upload it to either Seesaw, Dojo, or Google Classroom. I can't wait to see what you do.